All right. Hello, hello. I think we are on. I think we're live. Just giving Facebook a sec. Oh, got it. Okay, okay. Okay, I think we're good. All right, hello, hello, and welcome to today's video where I'm going to be talking about why self-love is the foundation for everything. And really getting specific about why learning to show up for yourself, for who you are right here, right now. That is what I mean by self-love. Yes? I don't mean bubble baths. I don't mean external thing. Learning how to become your own safe place. Learning how to become your own safe place. That is what I mean by self-love. Why? This is the tool. This is the practice. This is the thing that everything else is built on top of. And that without this, right, without this practice, all the other self-inquiry, self-improvement, self-help, trying to fix yourself, trying to change your habits, trying to make your life better stuff is going to be incredibly, incredibly, incredibly difficult, if not impossible, okay? And why, with this tool, everything else will essentially naturally come, okay? And why we don't need to force ourselves to become something. Why we never need to force ourselves to do better, why we never need to force ourselves to do better when we know better and change our habits and all these things, and why trying to force ourselves doesn't work, okay? And I also just really want to drive home why going slow on this path, going slow is going fast. That we need to embrace the fact that we are not floating intellects that can just learn something in our head and then that's it now. We can do it, but that we are physical beings who have physical nervous systems that have been programmed, our subconscious has been programmed, and actually learning how to change the way we're doing things. Okay? That there's a reason for why we're doing everything we're doing. And none of it is that we're bad or that we're wrong or that we're stupid or that we're incapable or that we're self-sabotaging, actually, or that we're actually even self-hating. Okay? We have a reason for everything that we're doing, and all of it, every reason for everything that we're doing, comes down to this is what we learned we had to do to survive. And if we want something different because we're in pain, that actually figuring out why we're in pain, why we're doing what we're doing to cope with or deal with the pain, and why it's not working, figuring out what we need to be doing instead, and then actually being able to get our bodies and our brains on board with doing the new thing is difficult, okay? So this is why I am the anti-influencer in the sense that I have this one thing and it is the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. I don't have the flashy new thing. I don't have the now it's this that will heal your anxiety. Now it's this that will heal your depression. Now it's this that will heal your body, and all these different tools, and click my affiliate links, because I know that ultimately it's this one thing, that if you practice this one thing, if you keep focusing on building this one thing, this making yourself your own safe place, that everything that you're capable of, everything that you can come into, all of the progress you want to make is going to come from that. And that without this, again, it doesn't really matter what you do. It doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter how much you positivity frenzy, whip yourself into a state, focus on the positive, try and force yourself to do new things, visualize. It doesn't matter. Your nervous system isn't going to let you, okay? And the other thing is that I don't promise you quick results. I don't promise you, here's 30 days to a whole new, brand new you, right? If you're in my mystery school, it's the same thing over and over and over again. For the first 2/3 of the Awakening to Reality curriculum, we talk about how to become your own safe place, why we have guilt, why we have shame, and how to deal with these two things. Like literally, it's that over and over and over and over and over again. And I don't even get into other practices until the very last third section. Because if we do those other tools from a place of still trying to fix ourselves, where we haven't developed the foundation of I'm doing this to support myself, I'm doing this because I love myself, I'm doing this because I'm trying to nourish who I am right now, not trying to make myself some better version of me so that I won't be in pain anymore. These other tools, they won't work. They won't work. Like we won't be able to actually transform our lives. Okay, so let's back up and let's start at the beginning. Okay, and again, if you've heard me say this 100 million times, sit and listen for the 100 million and first time. Because this cannot be overemphasized, overstated, and if we don't understand this, again, we're gonna continue to be running around like chickens with our heads cut off. Okay? If we don't understand where our self-sabotage, coping, negative behaviors, anxieties, depression, what we are struggling with, if we don't understand where it came from, and if we don't understand why we have confusion between what is truly good for us and what feels good in the moment and then seems to be negative in the long run, if we don't understand why that's happening, then the whole you need to just show up for who you and what you are right now will continue to make no sense. And we won't do it. And we'll think there must be something else because this is just a bad part of me. And again, everybody, okay, so you're listening to this, everybody thinks they are the exception to what I'm saying. Okay, so before I even say it, you are going to think, while I'm talking, yeah, but not my thing. I hear what she's saying and I can see that for other people, but not me. My thing is really bad. I really actually should feel shame about myself. This is a thing that really does need to be fixed in me. Because look, it's causing problems, chaos. Look at all of the pain. She might be right about others, but she's wrong about me. Okay? You're gonna think that. And also, you're gonna think, no, there has to be a way out of this pain. There has to be a quick way. There has to be something I can do. There must be an answer. She's just withholding it. Or whatever she's saying, again, it applies to other people, but it doesn't apply to me because I'm in so much pain. There has to be a thing. What do I do? There has to be a practice. Because all the other teachers and all the other gurus and all the other influencers say they were able to just tap their way out of their anxiety. They were able to just 30 days of manifest their way into millions of dollars. They just found their life purpose and then they were that. So like, that must be true. You're going to think both of these things, okay? Your brain is going to do that. You're going to think, no, your shame, your guilt, your thing really is bad, and what I'm saying doesn't apply to you. And you are going to think, no, there has to be a quick fix solution. I know better. I should be able to just do better. I can just do this thing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying, no, you are not the exception. 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 This applies to everyone. What I'm about to say actually does apply to everyone. Because we are all unique individuals, yes. And we all share a same basic, fundamental physiological biology and neurochemistry. We're all different, yes, but not that different. Okay? So please listen to this. Take this in and just consider that it might apply to you. Just consider that it might apply to you. Okay, before you write it off, what if it does apply to you? What would that mean? Okay? Okay. So, in our childhoods, we are in a temporary reality. We are in a temporary, codependent reality where we are not capable of meeting or understanding our own needs. We are fully and completely dependent upon our caregivers to meet our needs for us, to understand our needs, to take us out of pain, and to give us pleasure. And universal law, that which is supporting our growth is what leads to pleasure. That which is going against our growth feels like pain, because we are physiologically biological living organisms. Life has one characteristic that it shares among all life, and that is life wants to grow. You are life. You are a very, 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 very complex version of life, possibly the most complex version of life on Earth, but you are still biologically a biological organism that wants to replicate its genes, that wants to express its genetic potential, that wants to live. And in order to live in this reality that we live in, we must be continually growing. That's what living is. In order to be continually growing, we have to be taking in new information and becoming more complex because of it. We have our basic genetic, biological, intellectual blueprint, what we are born with, and we build on that. It evolves in our lifetime via our experiences, where we are interacting with reality, taking in information. So every experience we have, you can think of it like a piece of information that then informs our being and makes the structure that we are more complex. That's what growth is. Basic who we are, take in new information via experience that informs us something about ourselves, something about the world. We go out, we create something, we do something based on that, cause and effect, over and over and over again. So every time we experience something, new information makes us more complex, which leads to the next experience, which leads to the next experience, which leads to the next experience. That's what evolution is. Okay? So that's what we're all doing. That's what we're all doing here on Earth. We have our basic genetic potential. We all naturally, instinctually want to express that. We take in the information around us, and we attempt to use that to express what we want. And it seems to me that at the end of the day, the bottom line, the thing that makes a human being happy is getting to express that potential. Getting to just go on that journey of feeling like you're expressing yourself. Every time you're having an experience, you're learning something new about yourself, you're doing something that leads to a new experience, which leads to new information, which leads to more information about yourself, which leads to new experience, which leads to new action, which leads to new creation, and that's just this continual cycle of spiral of growth, right? And we feel the most in pain when we're not able to do that, when we're not able to express, when we're not able to grow, when we're not able to expand. And that is the fundamentals of pain and pleasure. So pain is the biology, because we are life speaking to us, saying something is hindering growth. Something is antagonizing. Rather than being expansive, this is contractive. Pleasure, true pleasure, this is supporting growth. This is supporting expansion. This is supporting expression, my genetic potential being expressed. Okay? And in the temporary reality of our childhoods, getting our needs met, right? And because we are fundamentally still biological human beings, right? This is why we don't want to come from the privileged perspective of saying you can be happy anywhere. That is not true. If you really are not having your basic needs met, okay, yes, we are incredibly resilient and we can have positive mindsets and all of these things, but we are going to be in pain. We are going to be suffering when we don't have basic need stability met, because that is going to hinder our capacity to live and to grow, right? That's just a biological fact. So of course we can have positive mindsets and of course we can do all these things, but there is going to be pain in that, no matter how much you try to make it a positive thing. It's gonna hurt, because you're still fundamentally a biological organism who, when you are not getting your needs met, are in pain. And then you're going to do whatever it takes to try to adapt and do whatever you need to do to try to meet that need. Okay? So when we're children, when we're small children, we are being programmed about how reality works. Okay, so yes, little children have good connection to their instincts. They have good connection to pain and pleasure because they haven't been programmed yet. So we'll get that in a second. But little children don't have like mystical knowledge of how everything works. They have good connection to their instincts. So it can sometimes seem like little children understand how to survive better than adults, right? Like they have better instincts with food, or they have better instincts with people reading skills or things like this. And again, that's something we all should have access to, and it just hasn't been shut down in them yet around this feels good and this feels bad. That's literally all a child is doing, right? They don't have the conditioning on top of, but this is how you're supposed to feel, and you're not supposed to act like this, and you're not supposed to do these things, and this should feel good, and this is the right way, and all. They haven't had that yet. So their instincts, their connection to their instinct of pain and pleasure is simply clearer and stronger. That's why children are like that. But at the same time, they don't know that if you go to the edge of a cliff and you fall off of it, you're going to die, right? Why do we protect children from fire? Why do we protect children from sharp things? Why do we protect children from... Because they don't know how reality is around them works. They are a danger to themselves, right? Because they haven't learned yet. And that's what your caregivers are meant to do. We're meant to teach our children, okay, like, so you don't need to put your hand in the fire and know that it burns. I'm going to tell you about it. I can demonstrate this to you. And then those are the basics of being brought up by caregivers, okay? But again, fundamentally, we are dependent upon our caregivers for meeting all of our needs. We are codependent with our caregivers. We don't know how to know what our own needs are. We don't know how to access or get our own needs met. We don't know how to communicate what our needs are, because we don't even understand what they are. It is completely and fully up to our parents to read us, to meet our needs, and that's what leads to our pleasure. And when they don't, we are in pain. And then the only thing we have control over is our expression of pain and pleasure. Our communication to our parents is, that feels good, here's how I express when I feel good. That feels bad, here's how I express when I feel bad. And that's like literally our only method of communication for the first year of our lives until we start talking. And even then, right, for the first 4 or 5 years of our lives, all we really have was our instinctual reaction as a communication to our parents, our caregivers, the authority figures in our lives, around what does and doesn't feel good. Okay. Now, with that, we have to understand that because of that codependent relationship, our caregiver's approval means survival for us. So from literally day one, our nervous systems is starting to program in. So not your intellect, not your conscious mind now that you're an adult, this is how you think and reason. Not that. Your body, your brainstem, your basic programming is being programmed that when caregivers pull away, when caregivers don't approve of me, when caregivers go away, I don't get my needs met. Needs get met from someone understanding me and meeting my need. When I am rejected, I am now at risk of not getting my need met. That is our first program. Take that in for a second. That was your first program. Being approved of by my caregivers equals a better chance of them meeting my need. Being rejected by my caregivers equals better chance of me not meeting my need. Being approved of by my caregivers equals pleasure. Being rejected by my caregivers equals pain. Okay, that's how your nervous system was programmed. Okay, now as we grow into adulthood, what should happen in a healthy environment is that we start to develop autonomy. Autonomy being we start to understand our own pain and pleasure sensations, and we are given tools by our caregivers in this magical universe for understanding when I am in pain, this means a need is not being met. It means I'm being antagonized in some way. It means my capacity to express is being challenged. So I'm going to investigate what is hurting, and I'm going to try to figure out why it's hurting, what in the reality, cause and effect, is leading to the pain, so that I can change that and get my need met, or not be antagonizing myself. When I experience true pleasure, there is no negative backlash. Okay, so this is the difference between fake pleasure, consensus reality pleasure, and true pleasure. True pleasure does not have a negative backlash. So it feels really good to eat this thing now and then I get a stomachache later. That's not true pleasure. That's consensus reality pleasure. That's an adaptive pleasure. And we'll talk about that in a second. We would learn how to interact with pain and pleasure in a very healthy way where pain and pleasure are neutral pieces of information. That's it. That's all they are. Pain and pleasure are just neutral pieces of information. But what actually happens is because humanity has spent our entire evolution not fully understanding ourselves, not fully understanding how reality works, struggling very hard to survive, creating systems based on misunderstanding around how to survive so that some people have way more and some people have way less and some people are exploited and other people aren't, and all of these things, this very complex web that we live in. We've developed consensus reality, which is this is how we have to be. This is how you have to be. This is what you have to be. This is what you have to do. This is not appropriate. This is not okay. You can't be like this. These are the things that are valued. These are the things that are not valued. These are the things that are good. These are the things that are bad. And through our growth process, we started to interact with something called shame, guilt, abandonment, and rejection. So as we were expressing ourselves, as we were growing, as we were going through our learning process, we exhibited behaviors, we did things, we had interactions where we expressed and we got told, don't do that, that's bad. You can't be that, you're naughty. or we did something and we got in pain and we got abandoned, or we got rescued, right? We didn't get to learn why what we did hurt. We spilled water and we got yelled at instead of, oh, okay, you didn't know that was going to happen. Now you're learning something new about gravity. You're learning something new about water. I'll help you clean it up. We'll clean it up together. Like teaching us how to clean up our own messes, because life is always going to be that. Instead of any of that, right? We got shamed. We got guilted. We got rejected. We got abandoned. And what did that do? That triggered our nervous system. I'm not going to get my needs met. This person that I rely on for everything is rejecting me. So what do I need to do to modify my own behavior to get back in their good books? So now, whatever the actual pain was, we don't even learn from that. We didn't learn how to learn from pain. We didn't learn what that pain meant. All we learned was whatever our reaction to that pain was, got us rejected, and that means now we're survival threat. Our little baby nervous systems, our little child nervous systems, we're like, okay, well, that's horrifying. What do I need to do? Who do I need to be? How do I need to alter my behavior so that I'm approved of again? So now we're 2 layers removed from real reality. Yeah? The spilling the water, the putting her hand on something hot, the expressing in a way that our parents didn't like, right? We hit the other child. We didn't get to learn from that experience because there would have been natural pain in all of those experiences. And then rather than being like, okay, why did that hurt, right? Why did it, when you hit the other child, how did that feel? If we had been that, right? You're still loved, I still love you, you're still safe. How does it feel to look at the other child that you just hit to take the toy? All children would be able to say, doesn't feel good. And if they weren't shamed, if they weren't guilted, if they weren't blamed, if they weren't told they were bad, and therefore put into a state of fear, they would learn, okay, that doesn't feel good. And then you would teach that child, okay, how about we share? There's this thing called sharing, which you don't know about, right? You hit because that was your instinct. That was the thing you knew to do. I want the toy, they have the toy, I'm going to aggressively take it. That's animal instinct. But if you're not getting rejected, you still stay in a container of being loved, and then you say, okay, how does that feel? There would have been real reality there to teach the child that didn't feel good. That wouldn't have felt good. To see the other child crying, no child would be like, that feels nice, I like that. And then we teach them sharing, and that would feel better. And then their nervous system would learn, sharing feels better. I get to have the toy, they get to have the toy, and there isn't the pain of watching the child cry. So that is going to be what I'm going to choose to do from now on because that feels better. That's real learning. The child then became more complex through their interaction with that information. But like I said, what happens in most situations is child hits other child gets yelled at by mom and dad. So now child is not even focusing on what did it feel like for the other kid. There's no empathy involved. They can't really feel what the consequences of their action was for anyone else. All they feel is, okay, well now I'm totally fucked, right? That's what their nervous system is doing. I'm afraid, fear, shut down. What do I do? What do I need to do to survive? Okay, and then we understand the fear state of the physical body. Because we are physical beings, how we evolved, when we are in a state of fear, our concentration narrows. We remove information. We don't take in more information. We go to what do we know? What have we done before? What do we need to do so that we don't die? Okay? And then whatever it is that we do to not die. So in that situation, we get yelled at by mom and dad for hitting the child. We freeze. We say sorry. we didn't actually learn why we shouldn't hit the other child. We didn't actually learn why that's a not conducive to our growth, healthy thing to do. All we learned was that behavior gets me rejected, so then I freeze, or I hold my breath, or I cry, and then mom loves me again. And so now, in the future, that's what I'm going to do. So we started learning in our early childhoods these behavior modifications, right? So when we were crying and mom didn't like it, and we learned to hold our breath so that we wouldn't cry, so that mom wouldn't reject us, even though we're feeling bad. Why we're crying, why we're feeling bad, doesn't get addressed. We don't learn to process our emotion. We don't learn to figure out why we were crying, what was happening, right? We fell down and hit our hand, and we didn't get to process that experience. We just had, I fell down, I hit my hand, I was in pain, I cried, then I got rejected. And then my nervous system went into shutdown. So I held my breath and I stopped crying. So now in the future, I'm not going to cry. I'm going to learn how to dissociate from my body when I'm in pain, because I learned that crying equals rejection, and rejection equals death. So then I become an adult who's completely disconnected from my emotional experience, and I don't know why I feel numb all the time. And I can't have a true, authentic, vulnerable relationship with anybody. I don't know why I overeat and drink and do all these things and feel so disconnected to my body. Well, because you learned so early in your life that being connected to your pain and expressing it gets you rejected, and rejection equals death. So whatever you need to do to numb that out so that you don't express it is the way to survive. This is how you got programmed. So now everything you're doing in your adulthood that looks like self-sabotage, when you're numbing and you're coping and you're self-sabotaging and you're scapegoating and you have your habits, your body is doing what it learned in your childhood over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And again, now, most of us as adults never learned, okay, now I'm an adult who is autonomous, and I can learn to start identifying and meeting my own needs with or without the acceptance and approval of others. Most of us never figure that out. We take the codependent, my needs get met by other people with us as we start to develop. And then we start to have the I need to be approved of by my teachers, I need to be approved of by my peers, I need to be approved of by culture, I need to be approved of by all these other people, because these other people all now hold the keys to the things that I want and that I need. So rather than becoming adults who say, okay, well now it's my job to start to understand what my needs are, and it's my job to communicate those to others and to figure out how to meet them, and why am I in pain, and why am I in pleasure, and how do I learn from this reality that I'm continually interfacing with? We go, okay, now I'm going to become codependent with literally everyone around me. And when I'm in pain, because we learned in our childhoods, this is a big, big key, that pain means we are wrong and bad. Okay, we all learned that because all of us got rejected, abandoned, shamed, blamed when we were in pain. Unless you have a healthy relationship with pain, like when you're in pain, you don't automatically blame someone else or blame yourself. If your interaction with pain is, okay, what's causing this pain? What am I learning about myself? What am I learning about reality? What's being antagonized? What's the need that's not being met, and how do I meet it? If that's not your reaction to pain, you are in consensus reality. You are disconnected from real reality. You are in stories and fantasy because you were trained to be in that. That disconnection from what pain actually is. If there is an emotional charge to pain that makes you feel something about yourself, that is the ultimate conditioning. That pain means you are wrong, you are bad, or reality is wrong and going wrong. These are the two ways we learn how to interact with pain. Because the shame and the guilt always comes from, I'm in pain because I'm bad. I'm in pain because I did something wrong. And why do we do that? Right? Because, again, in our childhoods, we only had control over our own behavior. We couldn't say, no, I'm in pain because I didn't know, and I'm learning something new, and someone needs to explain it to me. We only got, I'm being yelled at, I'm being rejected and abandoned. The one thing I have control over is my own behavior, so I need to come up with stories with how terrible I am to make it so that I don't do that again in the future, because I'm trying to protect myself from doing that again in the future, because again, doing it in the present meant that I got shamed and abandoned, which triggered my nervous system that I'm going to die because I'm not going to get my needs met. So most of us go into adulthood with this reality or this relationship to pain that says, if I'm in pain, I'm doing something wrong, or if I'm in pain, I need to blame it on someone else, I need to blame it on society, I need to blame it on whatever, so that they'll fix it, because either way, it's shameful. So we are all in this place where we are acting, we are moving from the false assumption that our pain makes us wrong and bad. And we're either projecting or turning it in on ourselves. And this is where the self-help and the self-improvement and the spirituality all come in and take all of your money. Because they are riding on that. They are absolutely feeding on that idea that your pain is your fault. There's something broken and wrong about you that you are in pain. Your anxiety, your depression, your physical ailments, you're not having enough money, you're not knowing what you want to do with your life, you're feeling lost, you're feeling confused, you're not being able to do what's right for you, you're numbing, you're coping, you're self-sabotage. That we all have a 30-day program for you that will fix you and this broken thing so that you can go out and live life successfully the way you're supposed to, spiritually. Right? You see what I'm saying? And it all plays on your insecurity that it's true that your pain is something wrong with you. And we want to believe that that's true because that makes it simple. If I just get on the right diet, if I just get in the right mindset, if I just do the ayahuasca, if I just take the right plant medicine journey, if I just do the right meditation, if I just fix my broken brain, if I just Tony Robbins or whatever, like literally everyone has their thing they have. They're going to whip your nervous system into some sort of frenzy or get you to dissociate completely from yourself as the fix for your bad behavior. And instead of Netflix, and instead of buying the Kim Kardashian thing, and instead of whatever, you're supposed to become someone who's constantly working, constantly approvable, and just spending your money on therapy and spending your money on the Lululemon pants and yoga classes. Like, there's no questioning of the system. There's no questioning of the actual programs that we're running. It's all like, yeah, no, there is something just wrong with you. There's still just a deficiency of some sort in you. That's why you're in pain. And here's the thing to fix you. And that feels good to us because that was our conditioning that we got in our childhoods. That's familiar. We know that. We're attracted to that. Then someone like me comes along and says, no. There's nothing wrong with you. There's no bad part of you. Everything you're doing is a response to pain you don't understand. Everything you're doing is an adaptation for getting your needs met the best way you know how, the only way you know how to understand it right now. And you're probably very, very, very unself-aware because you were not taught to be self-aware. You were not taught to understand your own needs. You were not taught to be connected to your body. You were not taught to be connected to true pain and true pleasure. You were taught to be disconnected from all of these things. You don't know how to learn from your experience. And in fact, you have a learning trauma because you were shamed and blamed and abandoned and guilted when you did something that caused pain that you didn't know was going to cause pain. You weren't shown how to learn from that. You were abandoned or you were rejected, which triggered your nervous system. So now, you as an adult are in pain. You want out of pain. You automatically think, what do I need to do to fix myself? That feels empowering because that was the power you had in your childhood. What do I need to do to alter my own behavior so that the external world will respond to me differently? So that my caregivers will respond to me differently, and hopefully that will feel better for me. Law of attraction, anyone? Manifestation, anyone? Abundance, anyone? What do I need to do to change my internal thoughts or how I'm speaking, or what magical code do I need to do so that the universe will respond to me differently? What does that sound like? What do I need to do so that mom and dad will respond to me differently? Right? That feels good. That feels familiar. Because that's what the temporary reality of our childhood was. That's not what real reality is. Real reality is, it's either supporting your growth or it's not. And real reality is, some of the things that we're doing, some of the ways in which we're coping and self-sabotaging and all of these things, are purely because we exist in a system that doesn't work for people. You didn't invent it. Okay, so again, we're all supposed to be hustling, we're all supposed to be having these big lives of this career and this life and living in an apartment and having these friends and this social life. Like, we were all conditioned for what life is supposed to be. And for most of us, that doesn't actually align with who and what we are. And we were, like I said, we were never taught to emotionally process. We're disconnected from our true selves, being our actual connection to pain and pleasure, our instincts. And then we didn't get the tools. We weren't taught how to learn from those things. So we were born with the instinct, and we needed to be taught how to learn from it. We were trained to disconnect from the instinct and not learn from pain and pleasure. Just try to fit in, because the more you fit in, the more other people meet your needs, the safer you feel, the better you feel, and then it's this loop of self-rejection, rejecting your pain, rejecting your pleasure, so that you can try to fit in. And then getting that consensus reality hit of pleasure, when you're accepted, that feels good to your nervous system, like I'm going to be okay, even if it's totally against your actual blueprint or what would actually be good for you. So this is why we're now all so confused with what is really painful and what is really pleasurable. Because we were disconnected from our instincts. And we learned that acceptance equals provision and survival. But then, if acceptance means living in alignment with a reality, with a consensus, with a way of being that is actually harmful to the human being, which so many of our ways of being are, now we have this completely confused, crossed wire. It feels good to do this thing because it gets me accepted, and my nervous system, that makes me feel like I'm going to be good, as in provided for, safe. But in reality, I'm working a 40-hour-a-week job that I absolutely hate, and it's destroying me, and it feels bad. So then I have to go home and drink every night, and then I feel shame about that. And then I go to this self-improvement workshop that teaches me how to disconnect from myself even more, and blame myself for my drinking and white knuckle my way to not drink so that I can keep going to my job and just not drink. And if I could just stop drinking, my whole life would be better. No, it wouldn't. If you stop drinking, the pain of your life would be even more painful. The drinking is how you're coping with it right now. And then you have to face why you're in so much pain at your job. And then you might have to leave your job or change your job. And then you're risking being rejected because all of the people that you're surrounded by, all of the people you've been attracted to your whole life are like your caregivers, have the same kinds of fundamental belief systems about what is right and wrong and good and bad, because that was familiar to your nervous system, right? Now we have these internet echo chambers where people only interact with people who have ideas that are just like theirs, because we're so afraid. We don't want new information. We don't want to believe that the way that we're seeing things is wrong. Because if it is, we're bad, we're shameful, and we don't know how to learn from that. And then we have to change, and change is scary. Change is hard, different, our bodies don't want to do that. So we echo chamber, echo chamber, echo chamber, echo chamber, and then the world just keeps getting more and more and more divided. Because again, we're all just stuck in our nervous system trauma. So the more we start to operate from how do I show up for myself right now? What do I need right now to feel safe? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And we start to assume innocence. There's a reason I'm doing this, and it's a good reason. There's a need, and it's not always my fault. Okay, we have these people, right, like with this kind of like overwhelm of everyone calling everyone a narcissist now. Most people aren't narcissists. Okay, we have pretty much 99.99% of humanity that we're taught that pain equals shame. That's everyone. And then we have half the people who said, okay, pain equals shame, that means I'm bad. So I'm going to try and fix myself. I'm going to constantly be the type of person who's codependent, who's trying to make other people like me, who's changing myself for everyone in the room, who's doing all the workshops, trying to live the perfect life and trying to be spiritual and then failing and then hating myself and blah, blah, blah. We have those people. And then we have the other half of society that say, well, if I'm in pain and that makes me wrong and bad, I'm going to project it. It's your fault. I can't internalize that. You need to be different. It's your fault. It's society's fault. It's this person's fault. You need to fix it. I'm helpless. I can't do anything about this. This isn't me. And it's two different reactions to the same thing. Pain means I'm wrong and bad, so I either need to change myself or I need to change everyone around me so that their reaction to me will be different, so that I'll get my needs met. None of us are going, pain means something is out of alignment. What do I need to learn about myself or reality in order to get into alignment? And what is alignment? Alignment is simply, I'm doing the things that support my growth. Okay, so reprogramming the nervous system. Actually being able to figure out what feels actually good to you, what is right for you, what works for you. This is a long, long, long process. There is absolutely no 30-day quick fix. It does not exist. Because reprogramming that base nervous system program that you got in your infancy, that approval from the outside equals safety equals love equals the right thing. That rejection from the outside equals I'm going to die. Reprogramming that thing you've had since you were 0, that's in your body, not your conscious, higher thinking mind, is hard. And it's the foundation upon which you have built all of your other behaviors. Literally everything else that you do, that you're confused about why you do it. If it's not just clear, I'm doing this thing and it absolutely leads to pleasure. Like real pleasure that doesn't equal self pain later. Anything that's not that is based on this fundamental program. The fact that when you go into pain, you blame yourself or you blame the world. You look to fix yourself, which then triggers your nervous system, right? You then are rejecting you. When you're in pain, you are now rejecting yourself. You don't go, oh honey, what's going on? Why are we feeling this? What's happening? This is just a neutral information. It's so fast. We're automatically in self-rejection. When we're in pain, we reject. And then we're trying to fix it, right? What do I need to do in my environment? What do I need to do for them? How do I need to manipulate the other people around me? How do I manipulate myself? How do I fix myself? What's my 30-day thing? What do I do? Oh my God. Our nervous systems go into shutdown, into fear, into doing the same thing we've always done over and over and over again. And it's a vicious cycle, okay? Or we follow the influencer. We quit our job, we leave, we tell ourselves we're going to figure out who we are. And then we're constantly triggering ourselves into fear and pain and shutdown. Because now we have to figure out who we are. We have to figure out what we want. We have no tools for that. Because that would require actually feeling what's going on in our bodies, actually feeling our pain, actually figuring out why we feel how we feel. What works, what doesn't, what's programming, what's just consensus reality. And again, it goes against our literal survival instinct to question these things. When you're in pain and to sit there and assume that there isn't something wrong with you, that's why I said in the mystery school, the first 2/3 of the program is just 800 different ways of saying that. Because everything inside of you is going to resist questioning the reality. You are going to want to blame it on yourself. You are going to want to figure out what's wrong with you. Because that's what you've always done. That's your nervous system in a state of fear. So this is why, literally, from the very beginning of my teaching, my one thing, the perception diet that I put out, the first thing I ever put out, was this. If you were to accept yourself for who and what you are right now, as lovable and good enough, that is what takes your nervous system out of fear. And then you can start the process of actually learning from your experiences. You're not going to get rid of your PTSD by pretending things happened in a different way. Because that information of what actually happened is what reality is, and we need to learn from it. So if something hurt when we went through it, we don't necessarily have compassion and say that's how it should be in the sense that it was perfect. No, reality is not perfect, right? An adult abusing a child is not perfect reality. The perfection in that is that there will be pain in that for the child and for the adult, so that we can learn that that is not how we want to do things. That hinders growth. That's what we should be learning. Instead of the adult going into shame, the child going into shame, and everyone just doing the abuse over and over and over again because we don't know what else to do. When we don't have the foundation of I love myself for who and what I am right now, all of the other tools don't do anything. Because we are just going to be triggered into a state of fear, which means we can't learn anything new. Which then means our nervous systems take over and they force us to do the same thing over and over and over again. And again, becoming your own safe place, the tool of becoming your own safe place, is not a one and done thing. We don't work on it and then we get it one day and now we're on this path. It's a continual practice of learning to show up for yourself when you're in pain, learning to show up for yourself when you're in pleasure, and just being in your moment and say, okay, what do I need right now? How do I make myself feel safe in this moment? I'm here with me. I'm in pain. It's not my fault. I don't know how I'm going to get out of it. I'm afraid. All of these things. We start with self-compassion, because that's what takes our nervous systems out of fight or flight. And then we might be able to start to figure out, okay, I don't like my job. And then that's going to trigger your nervous system. Because if that's true, look, all of your programming that tells you this is the job you're supposed to have, and if you don't have this job, and everyone believes this, and if I lose this job, I'm going to lose everyone, I'm going to lose everything, and I'm going to die, that's what's going to happen. So then you have to make yourself safe again. And like actually questioning your programming, like questioning, do I have to live like this? Is this something that I actually want? Might I want to do this other thing? And then having to face the actual rejection we are going to face, the actual fear coming true of people not understanding us and people not being able to validate us and having to figure out what we need and ask for it and people saying no and having to figure out a new way and all this. It is a lot. So that's why I say there is no quick fix. And the one tool of learning to just be your own safe place over and over and over again is how we slowly, over time, very, very small, make little changes to our lives, have our nervous system freak out, prove to ourselves that it's okay. I made a video, how to reprogram your nervous system, how to feel the fear and do it anyways. There's all these tools, but again, none of them work if you don't know how to be your own safe place when you're freaking out. And that is something that we develop over time, over and over and over again. So like when I first started in 2013 till now, 8 years, I've figured a lot of things out. And it all came from continuing to practice that one skill. Every time I was in pain, I learned to stop abandoning myself. And it took a long time to learn that. And then that would, like I say, oh, okay, well that means I can't, like if I'm not assuming I'm wrong and bad, why am I coping? Well, because I don't like this. Oh God, well if I don't do that, I'm going to lose my husband. Well, if I don't do that, I'm going to lose my mother. If I don't do that, everyone's going to hate me. Okay, so I have to try to not do it. And then I actually get rejected. Well, can I still provide for myself even though I'm getting rejected? And more and more and more. We learn how to be on our own side. We learn how to fend for ourselves in a lot of ways sometimes. We learn how to be okay when people reject us. We learn through our nervous systems, through that like absolute terror of doing it anyways and seeing that we don't die. It's hard, scary work to reprogram the nervous system and to really figure out who and what you are and what you want, and to feel capable of creating that in your life and communicating with the people around you instead of expecting them to know, right? When we step out of that childlike way of like, if I just behave this way, everyone will love me and then they will meet my needs. It's like, no, you will start to learn like, no, I need to figure out what I want and need, and I need to communicate it clearly, and people have to be able to consent or not consent because we're adults now. And then I have to stop trying to read everyone and meet their needs and their desires and people, right? It's a very complex thing. That's why the course is so long. But it's, again, until you learn how to make yourself safe in this moment, you're never going to get anywhere, because you're just going to keep triggering your nervous system into that state of fear, which then means that you're only going to do what you've always done. That's the reality. You can't take in new information, learn from it, and do something different when you're in a fear state. And when you're rejecting yourself, when you're abandoning yourself, when you're making your pain your fault or the world's fault and you're helpless, you are in a state of fear. And then again, the answers for how to create the life you want, are not going to come in a grand vision. It's going to be slowly, 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 slowly. This just doesn't feel good. Okay, investigate. Why not? This does feel good. Investigate. Why? It gets me rejected. Oh God. It gets me accepted. Oh God. Learning. It's such a slow process. And then proving it to your nervous system. Doing it, having the freak out, having the shutdown. Doing it again, having the freak out, having the shutdown. Doing it again, feeling a little stronger, seeing that you don't die. Okay, now my body can do it. In the future, I'm going to talk about still needing to cope, because it takes a long time to learn how to figure out why we're doing what we're doing, the coping mechanisms of self-sabotage, what the need actually is, figure out a new way to meet that need, actually do it enough that the body and the mind learn that this new way works better than the old way, and then it's able to let go of the old thing. There is no 30-day quick fix for that. The nervous system needing to learn that the new what you actually wanted, how to get it met in a new way, that the new way actually works, takes a long time. And it all comes down to assuming innocence. So going slow is going fast. Don't try and change your whole life overnight. There is no 30-day thing. If the program you're doing is based on there's something wrong with you and I can help you fix it, or if it's stimulating your nervous system in some way, it's not it. If it's disconnecting you from your body, instead of taking you into your body and helping you learn to process that, it's not it. And if you're really on it, it's going to be a lot of confusion. It's going to be a lot of having no idea what you're doing. It's going to be a lot of literally, I only have my one next step. And then I just have to see how it feels and see what the results are. So again, it's not even magic, like what does it feel? It's do it, what's the result? What did you get? Did you get what you thought you were going to get or not? If not, what did you learn? Right? And then we have to be able to be on our own side to be able to learn. Because most of us would be like, if I didn't get what I wanted, if it didn't go how I thought it was, I'm such an idiot. I'm so wrong. I'm so bad. Well, no. You just didn't know. So what did you learn? Or we deny reality. We pretend that it went the way we wanted it to. We come up with some reason how reality got it wrong. And then we keep doing the same things over and over and over again, expecting different results. Because we can't just admit, I'm wrong. The diet doesn't actually work. The tapping method didn't actually do it for me forever. And again, I'm not saying these tools don't help. I'm sure that there are some benefits to some of these things. But again, the ultimate answer to our problem is learning from real reality. Why am I in pain? What's working? What isn't? And again, some of it is systemic, societal. This doesn't work for humans. The hustle mentality, the every man for himself, the no social safety nets, the some people groups literally being born into situations where they can't get out of poverty. That doesn't work. Not for humanity. It's not their fault. And we can't pretend that that's just fine. Because reality is what it is. No. We have intelligence. So all of our systems based on competition, at this point, we're seeing the results. It's not good. The people at the top had to sell their soul to be there. The people at the bottom can't get out. Nobody's winning. It equals war. It equals scarcity. It equals all these things. Cooperation is better. So how do we start to create a world that actually revolves around the true reality of what we're learning from our experiences? So we take as much responsibility as we can. We change our own lives as much as we can. We work to make society better by contributing to the systems we want to see. None of us can do everything. None of us can fight all the injustices. None of us can fix it. But we can all do what we can do. We all can just a little bit nourish ourselves, figure out what we need, figure out how, and then that will be that will turn into us becoming more compassionate for other people. Because again, when we're not in that state of fear, where we're constantly trying to fix ourselves, we can actually be like, okay, what can I do for the others? Right? Like this spirituality that's built upon fixing you just keeps you in this constant loop of self-obsession. And then we're distracted. And then the consumerist, capitalist society just keeps going and going. And we're a part of it, and we don't even see it. We're continually buying the next program, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. Instead of like, no, I'm okay. I have enough. So now, how can I, like I say, contribute to the world I actually want to see? Get out of my own head a little bit. I have enough. It's good. I don't need to keep manifesting abundance. So how can I turn what I have into something for someone else? So it's not about self-sacrifice. It's about enough. And it's enough. And just one step at a time. Little step at a time, one thing at a time. But it's returning to this over and over. Your nervous system will not let you grow until you feel safe. You feel safe when you feel loved. That is your power. When you can approve of yourself, you make all growth that's actually possible for you. So again, I'm not promising that infinite growth is possible for everyone in the systems that exist. It isn't. But what you do have access to, you will have access to it through loving yourself. What is possible for you is possible only when your nervous system is in a state of safety. And the first program you got is love equals safety. When you love yourself, when you approve of who and what you are right now, when the question stops being what's wrong with me and starts being what do I need, what am I feeling, what's going on, pain doesn't mean I'm wrong and bad, pain is just a messenger, what is the message? When we start to work from that place, everything becomes possible. We will learn little by little by little. We will confront our nervous system programs and our conditioning, and we will be rejected, and it will be hard and scary, and it's a long process, but it gets better and better and better and better and better and better and better. But we have to start with approving of who and what you are right now. So again, that doesn't mean you approve of what happened to you. It doesn't mean you approve of the people who hurt you. It doesn't mean you have compassion for how reality has unfolded. It means you have compassion for yourself, the one who experienced it. You have a reason for everything you're doing. You're trying to meet a need in the only way you know how. That's the bottom line. You're trying to fit in because to you, fitting in equals survival. You're afraid to admit who and what you really are in the places that got you rejected. Or these parts of yourself got shadowed and then didn't get to grow, so they're still very immature. There are definitely parts of you that are immature because they didn't get to grow yet, and you have to reparent those parts. And that's what the whole mystery school is. It's a lot of work. But again, it's all comes down to just this one tool. If you do this one thing, if you just make your commitment to showing up for yourself with compassion and curiosity, nourishing who and what you are right here, right now in this moment. You don't need my school. You don't need a program. You don't need anything. You will figure it out from there. I'm here to provide support because this is what matters to me. But ultimately, that's the tool. That's it. It's just that one thing. That's why I say I'm the anti-influencer. I've been selling the one thing the whole time. For free, in my paid courses, but it's all the same thing. You showing up for you right now. Assuming innocence, curiosity, loving who and what you are right now. That is the foundation for everything else you want to figure out, everything else you want to know, everything else you want to grow into, being able to change the world, being able to change yourself. Everything comes from that. And without that, there is nothing. So there's no point in working all those other things if you're not working this first. Going slow is going fast. Your nervous system can only handle so much change at a time. Safety with yourself is the thing. When you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're scared, when you don't know, you return to that. It's not going to be the quick fix. It's not going to change your life overnight. You're not going to have a wild vision and figure everything out. It's going to be slow, slow, slow. Over the next 3 years, 4 years, you'll look back and your whole life is different. Slow, incremental steps of just showing up for yourself in each moment and learning from your moment because you feel safe, because you love who you are right now, so you can actually learn from your moment instead of blaming yourself for your moment or abandoning yourself in your moment. Right? We want to make ourselves feel safe so we can actually learn from pain and pleasure. The information that we're getting from the past, processing from our past, and from what's happening right now, and thinking about what we need to do in the future, all of those things are a part of being in this moment, approving of yourself, taking in the information. And again, you can't do it when you're in a state of fear. When you're rejecting or abandoning yourself, you can't do it. You're just going to do what you've always done. It's just going to be instinct. So that's why. It's the one tool. Love yourself. Make yourself your own safe place. Practice that over and over and over again. It's going to be so hard. Every instinct you have, it's against it. It's not a thing you learn. It's a practice you practice. It is the practice. All the other information will come from it. Okay? So I hope that that was clear. I hope that that was succinct. And just, that's it. You are worthy of love right now. Pain does not mean you are wrong and bad. You have nothing to be ashamed of. You have things to learn. You have things to mature into. You have things to grow. It's just neutral. This is what supports growth. This is what supports death. Okay? All right. Have a good week. Have a good day. Have a good night. And I'll see you in the next video. Mwah!